Greetings, Sabre Nation. It is time for another edition of Sabres Daily. And I'm Jay Harper. Happy Sunday. Hey, the Bills won yesterday. I know it's only preseason, but you still you still want to win whatever you get out on the field. What are we going to jump into today? Well, we've got a number of things to touch upon. And today I'm really going to get into kind of some heartwarming stories about Buffalo and their history and whatnot. So let's go down memory lane for just a bit. Again, I'm Jay Harper, and this is another edition of Sabres Daily. And I would appreciate it if you go down there and give us a subscribe. Now, let's start with something that caught my attention this week. Uh, Marcus Foligno, he spent the last 9 seasons with the Minnesota Wild, but he has a real attachment to the Buffalo Sabres and the city of Buffalo. He sat down on Sabres Live with Dan Dunleavy and Marty Biron, and he did not hold back on his feelings for the franchise. Now, keep in mind, this is a guy that has been a part of the Minnesota Wild for almost 10 years, but he's still throwing some love out there for the city of Buffalo. Now, the backstory for anybody that doesn't know, Marcus is the son of Mike Foligno, a genuine Sabres legend going back to the 80s and the 1990s. Marcus himself, he actually started his NHL career in Buffalo before he later moved on. He says he was watching closely, but all during the playoffs, and that's just not a casual fan comment. Get this, I'm going to quote it here, so pardon me while I read all this. I didn't memorize this long quote. But anyway, his quote is, "I'd be lying if I told you I wasn't watching closely with Buffalo in the whole playoffs. It was a blast to see them get back into it. At the end of the day, I'm a big, big fan of the organization and the city of Buffalo." He also talked about how much Lindy Ruff meant to his own development as a player and as a man. And he admitted he thought Buffalo was actually the better team in Game 7 against Montreal in the playoffs last season. And actually, the numbers kind of back him up. Advanced stat site Money Puck had Buffalo with a real expected goals advantage in that game. But unfortunately, we all know how that turned out. But it's a great reminder that this organization's reach goes well beyond the current roster. You've got a storied franchise that's been out there forever, and there are players all around the league who still are quite enamored and perhaps even bleed the blue and gold, even when they're on another team. So I thought that was kind of interesting. So let's hear it for Marcus Foligno as he is heaping some praise on the Buffalo Sabres. Now we move along to another story here that is, again, I think just kind of goes to show what Lindy Ruff's mindset is and just that even keel of his. Lindy Ruff, there's a little detail about his path back to Buffalo that I don't think gets told enough. When the Devils fired him back in March of 2024, he joked, Ruff did, that his thought wasn't even about his coaching future. He said that, well, I guess I got to go home and mow the lawn. Yeah, so that's what he was thinking. I mean, that just shows his disposition, I think. Yeah, he was fired at 2 o'clock, and by 5 o'clock, he had his stuff packed up, and he said he was headed home, and home was Buffalo. So that's the kind of loyalty that explains everything about how this guy thinks, and I think played a large part into the turnaround for this team. And it's again paying off with some real recognition. We mentioned this in another episode. a finalist for the Jack Adams Award as the NHL's top coach. He should have won the thing. I mean, John Cooper, great coach, but Lindy Ruff, for a team that hasn't been in the playoffs for 14 years, how does that and you win your division and go 2 rounds in the playoffs and you're not coach of the year? Yeah, I'm still kinda ticked by that. Can you tell? And you even have Alex Tuck, who, took the money and ran to DC, also commenting about Ruff on his way out the door, saying, quote, "You see how much he cares about the crest and the city of Buffalo. So for him to be the coach to get us out of the drought, I think it means a lot for him, and it means a lot for our group and the city." So, yeah, again, I've made no bones about the fact that I am a huge Lindy Ruff fan, and I think it's great that they extended the man for 2 more years. He's 66 years old. Still, I think, in that age group, age range, I think a coach is in his prime in that time of his life, especially for a coach like Ruff, who's been coaching for 40 freaking years, man. Played the game, been coaching, been an assistant, a I mean, he has seen it all and been through the wars. And to have that guy leading things on the bench, man, I think that before they even drop the puck, no matter who's on your roster, you got somewhat of an advantage with that guy leading your team. Records, records, records. Yeah, it's kind of something that a lot of, especially stat rats, get into. They want to talk about records and can he break this record, and it's kind of fun to follow all that stuff. And here's a little bit of a history lesson and a nod to where Tage Thompson fits into things. Alexander Mogilny, his 76 goal season back in 92, 93. Let's face it, that ain't going to be broken. I just don't see it. I mean, it's a different game these days. It's being called the single most unbreakable record in Sabres history. I would have to agree, even ahead of Gilbert Perreault's career goal record for the Sabres. In today's NHL, with the tighter defensive systems and the fewer power plays than you had, 30 years ago, nobody's nobody's sniffing 76 goals in a season. Let's get real. It's just a different era of hockey. Now, that said, though, Tage Thompson, he is quietly building toward being in the hunt for the franchise, at least being in the top five goal scorers for the franchise. He's got 160 goals over 4 seasons, so averaging over 40 goals a season, and he's within range this season coming up of getting into that top five. It's not a 76 goal season territory. As we said, I don't think anybody is going to be in that range, but definitely a remarkable 4-year run by any standard. So Tage, yeah, he has certainly been fun to watch. So let's move on now to another segment. We kind of touched upon this a little bit earlier in an earlier episode. The prospect pool for the Sabres. Especially they had 2 first rounders in this most recent draft. So Buffalo's prospect pool just cracked the top 10 in a new national ranking. And I think that really is showing a sign of some sustainable long-term health for the franchise. But let's face it, there are a lot of top players that were way down in the draft the rounds. They second, third, fourth round guys that have risen to be stars in the NHL. So being in the first round in the draft is certainly no guarantee of anything. Injuries certainly come into play as well. But, again, it's just more leads me to have more of the optimism for this franchise going forward. So let's go ahead and kind of celebrate that, if we will. So, just another quick hit before we wrap up. The debate over who replaces Alex Tuck as alternate captain still very much in play. The odds on favorite, as I had mentioned the other day, is indeed Josh Doan. He's the name that keeps popping up to have the A on the sweater to be the alternate captain behind the captain, Rasmus Dahlin. And that Marchenko to Buffalo or Montreal storyline that we've been tracking hadn't gone away either. Worth continuing to watch as we make our way toward the regular season, which again gets underway October 1 in Columbus against the Blue Jackets. Then KeyBank Center's going to be a jumping come October 3rd when the Blackhawks come to town for the home opener. Remember, please go ahead and give us a subscribe down there here on the YouTube channel. And if you want to send me a direct message, you can send me an email at j@thesabresdaily.com. I'm Jay Harper. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and we'll be back here tomorrow for another edition of Sabres Daily. Let's go, Buffalo.